And now, next on our list of things that Vegas casinos need to do to become more fun is these parking fees got to go, man. And
There,
it's crazy.
even Stratosphere has a parking fee now, and they just reported in their earnings that it was they had a terrible quarter at Stratosphere, and I think all of their ails began when they started charging for parking. It
Hmm.
just a little personal funny thing is I drive an old manual because I love it, and I'm never going to get rid of it until it leaves me on the side of the road. And they put the parking ramp at a 45-degree angle to get your ticket in. So my old transmission and clutch go, I don't want to do that. So I stopped going. We used to go to the comedy club there once a week, and we don't do it anymore, even though locals get free parking. It's still just a pain. Sometimes it backs up, and I have to go climb up this incline to get to the gate. And it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
just a hassle. Why? Even when you get free parking, it can be a hassle. Resorts World waived their parking all summer. I wonder if that'll go away forever. So sometimes when they say, only for the summer, and they just never comes back. So
Hmm.
we'll see how that goes. But I've also had problems with being a local. Is you go to Caesars, you're within the 3 hours, and the gate won't open. You put your ID in there, and you have to call, and it's just a gigantic hassle. So I couldn't imagine having to pay for it or dealing with all these hassles because not paying for it and dealing with the hassles, made me unhappy
Yeah.
enough to not want to deal with it.
I don't know why, because like I remember coming to Vegas years ago where even the valet was free. There was like
Mhm.
almost no reason you would just. I remember going with my dad when I was younger. We would just pull right up to stay at the casino and just valet it. And even that is, I don't even if they're with how much they're charging to park regular. I don't even want to think about how much valet costs now.
I believe $50 to $100 now, unless you're Diamond or higher or the
That's
equivalent at
insane.
MGM. If you go to one thing to talk about downtown here just for a second is if you stay in the hotel downtown, the parking is free. I've never understood why the hotel guests are paying for parking. I can understand why you want somebody who's not staying there who's going to just use your parking deck to go to the walk down the strip. I can
Hmm.
see maybe charging them, but charging your hotel guests just really when you have a $50 resort fee and then parking's not included. I mean, come
Oh
on.
yeah, that's I never even thought of that. But yeah, now that you mention that, that's just wild.
Because downtown, the resort fee covers parking at all the casinos. You don't have to pay for parking at any of them if you stay in the
Hmm.
hotel. As
Yeah,
far as I know, I hope I haven't missed one, but I'm almost positive about that.
yeah. And now next on the list is the casinos need to start giving comps to the low rollers again. You know, they sort of most of these casinos they've sort of forgot about the little guy. You know, it's just they're just bending over backwards for all these crazy high rollers. But you know, a lot of their business has got to come from this a lot of small rollers to mid rollers. You know, because they keep getting all these tier programs and all these players clubs like you were talking about. You got to have a certain level to get the free valet or the free parking, and it's like you got to put a lot of money through at some of these places to get tiered up, and it's like at some of the lower tiers they don't even care.
Right. And one thing I have heard, and I've noticed this myself, I haven't played at a Caesars in years. And out of curiosity, I logged into my I'll say total reward, Caesars rewards account. Um, and I have free rooms at like Link and a couple of other places on these middays. And I do this every few months just out of curiosity. I hadn't seen that in a while. So I wonder if they are starting to go, all right, we have to bring the mass market back that abandoned. Maybe we can get away with charging them $20 for a slice of pizza and a drink. If we give them a free hotel room, they won't feel as ripped
Mm-hmm.
off. So we can still
Yeah,
hit
I
them
mean
for
it's like
$25 in parking. So maybe that's the direction they're taking. I don't have any free play offers or any free food or anything. It's just the free room, which doesn't cost them a whole lot.
What's funny is, as an aside, I had to go to the Caesars property down here. We have a small Harrah's because I was somehow I ended up with two Players Club accounts, and I went and they told me that she was telling me the same thing. She's like, "Oh, I see all your offers for out of town." I am now onto my seventh account. They've been merged 7 times because Caesars keeps buying all these different properties that I've already had Players Club cards out, and they just keep getting merged into the Caesars reward. So you know, it's there. Like we were saying, it's an issue with them owning a lot of the strip. They own a lot of the casinos all over the country.
Yeah, they have, and especially compared to MGM, because MGM only has, I don't know, 6 or 8 regional casinos. And
Mm-hmm.
Caesars, El Dorado, Harrah's, that group, they're in almost everywhere imaginable. Almost any state that has legalized gambling, they're in it one way or another, or they're at least on the state line on the other side of the river or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And now the next point is again ties into this point we were just talking about, and it's kind of the inverse now. Is there's no more like diamond lounges or Laura lounges for the very once you do get to the high tier. of these Players Club programs, there's not nearly as many freebies as there used to be.
And I stopped chasing diamond. I'm from Atlanta, and I would go up to Harris Cherokee and play a few games, do diamond in a day, and then my
Hmm.
wife and I would go sit in the Laurel lounges and take advantage of that. That's probably part of the reason why they don't want to have it anymore, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it's crazy to me because as soon as they stopped doing that, which they blamed on COVID, they
Oh
never
yeah.
came back in Las Vegas after COVID. I stopped chasing it because I thought, well, that was the only perk I care about.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not worried about free parking. I'm not going to park there for more than 3 hours anyway,
Yeah.
and I'm not staying in their hotels anymore if they're not free. So I don't care about no resort fees. So what reason do I
Hmm.
have to go do this? And
Exactly.
yeah, Atlantic City still has them, and there's a couple of regional markets that still have these Laura lounges. I think Atlantic City has a competition in that. If it's Borgata or maybe it's Hard Rock or Ocean, I think they're if they dropped them, they would be at a disadvantage. Where here nobody had them, so they thought, well, that's one thing
Yeah.
we can cut. Now we saved a few $1 million a year, but also they lost people like me who became diamond for only that purpose.
Hmm. I mean, it's crazy down here at the Hard Rock, the Seminole Hard Rock with the Guitar Hotel. They used to have it. They call it the Plum Lounge, and I used to. They used to give me access there all the time for having because I have the highest level card there that you can get that's not invite only.
Mm.
So now it's you can only go into that club if you have the invite only card, which I have heard rumors about what you need to do, how much you need to physically lose to get that card, and it's insane.
Well, and
And
video
then
poker
now,
players tend to not get invite onlys ever,
yeah,
or not
yeah,
often at
exactly.
least.
And then on top of that, they also charge you, it's like 25 or 50 comp dollars per person per day to go in. So not only did they raise it so that only the top people can get in there, but they also charge you comp dollars too to get in
I wonder if that's to keep people from doing like what I was doing when we would just go in there and not play. Because at the bottom level of Diamond at the end for the Laurel Lounges, I believe was $10 a person in points, and it had to be points. You couldn't pay them cash. I think they wanted to see legitimacy in your play.
there. Yep,
But if you made
exactly.
Diamond Plus, you didn't have to pay them, and you could uh,
Hmm.
take the free ride, so to speak.
Yep. And now the next tip about how to make Vegas more fun, which really applies to anywhere in the country that has service industry, is they need to have better customer service. You know, it's like since COVID, all the service industries all over the country, they sort of just like if you remember after COVID, Vegas was saying they were making all this money hand over fist.
Mhm.
It's because they had cut all their staff back and they were just operating with these skeleton staffs. And you know, you get less payroll expenses for less employees. Of course, you're going to make more money, but the service has been so bad since COVID. Like you were saying, one point you brought up when we were working on this video is there's no more daily housekeeping. You know, there's limited cocktail service. Sometimes it can, I guess that depends on the casino, but you know, sometimes you're waiting 15, 20 minutes for a drink. Or I read a story online the other day, so take it with a grain of salt. You don't know if it's true or not, but a lady was playing a slot machine and was looking for a waitress, and she said the waitress came over and was like, "There's no server in this area. If you want to get free drinks, you got to move over," and like walked her to a different part of the casino. And the lady was like, "Well, I don't want to do that. The machine I like is over there," you know?
Right, and those also we've raised the prices so much on these. The restaurants are so expensive now. You'd think that they could at least keep the service up, and that has been one of the big complaints. Is now everything's double what it was before COVID, and the
Mm-hmm.
service is half of what it used to be. Those need to go the same direction. If I'm going to go out and spend $200 on a dinner for two without alcohol, then the service
Mm-hmm.
better be 5 stars. And when it isn't, now what a ripoff it is. And so people feel ripped off. They're waiting in line sometimes in these hotel lines for an hour. I've seen them. We've walked because we walk through casinos regularly for Vegas Advantage, doing the table game surveys and electronic table games, video poker, and sometimes the lines have nobody in them. But sometimes, especially if we're there in the mid afternoon, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, there might be 100, 200 people in the Bellagio check-in line, or Flamingo is another one where I see a lot of people in, and those lines don't move very fast. And I know they've moved some to mobile check-in, but also some people don't want to do that. I would still want to talk to somebody and that's me. And I think there's still a lot of people who want to talk to a human when you're checking in. You
Mm-hmm.
can't slip $20 to the mobile check-in app and see if you can get a better room. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons why people would want to talk to somebody. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so and that's really a choke point I've never understood because when they're standing in that line, they're not buying alcohol, they're not gambling, they're not eating, they're just taking up space. and you're not making any money off of them. Now, if they have a set budget and you're going to get it all by the end, I guess it doesn't matter. But some people come here with no set budget, and the longer they're standing in that line, the less money you're going to take off of them. Surely you can hire more front desk staff or give them raises to make them more productive, whatever the problem is.
Hmm.
Because you would pay for that in other departments. But unfortunately, the hotel department's not run the same as the casino department and the beverage department. And, there's no crossover anymore of that. And I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, and for instance, I keep using Resorts World as an example here, but it's just because I always stay there. You go to I've never had an issue with a long line there, but you go to the desk at Resorts World, there's like 10 spots where there's computers that people could be working to check people in. There's never more than two people working.
Mhm.
So, but it's what do they say? They're cutting off their nose despite their face. They're cutting corners to save money on their bottom line, but then they're losing money elsewhere from these cuts.
Right. And I think a lot of the decisions have also come from the mistakes, or I think it's a mistake, where they sold the land out from underneath their casinos and they're renting it back. And I think
Oh,
that has
absolutely.
created a money pit that they did not anticipate, especially when things slow down. You never think, what happens if a recession comes? Because it's coming eventually, whether it's
Hmm.
2 years, 5 or 10, you're going to get one. And they just don't seem to think about those things. So now that things are slowing down, they have to pay the landlord. So
Hmm.
they have to get the money from some places so they could do cutbacks, and then all it does is hurt their future sales, and then it's just a
Hmm.
downward spiral.
Yep.
But I think the root of a lot of these problems have to do with the real estate deals that they came up with around COVID.
Oh, now that made absolutely no sense to me. If you own the property, eventually you're gonna get some equity in the property. Why instead just it's again cut? They're not thinking long term. They got this money in their pocket short term, and they didn't think about all the issues they were going to have with having a landlord.
Well, think about what might have happened to MGM had they not been able to sell Treasure Island during the crash to finish City Center,
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
they owned Treasure Island. They sold it to Phil Ruffin for I think it was $750 million, which was probably 50 cents on the dollar, but they were desperate. And if
Hmm.
they didn't own that land, they wouldn't have had anything to sell. And what does MGM Resorts look like today? Do they ever even finish Aria?
Hmm.
There's a lot of so the next crash that comes, if they need money and they don't own the real estate, yeah,
Yeah.
you only own the casino operations that aren't profitable because it's a deep recession. I think
Hmm.
these companies are in a lot of trouble.
And one last thing I wanted to put on this customer service. Again, I'm talking about Resorts World. I saw this when I was doing my research earlier when I was my $41 dozen donuts at Randy's. I saw they were advertising room service at Resorts World, and I went and read the fine print, and it's literally just Grubhub. You just order off Grubhub, and they bring it. Grubhub has permission to bring it to your hotel room, so they're calling it that's their room service.
That's just too nice of a hotel to be doing that.
Yeah,
They need to reel the room service card in and have them present it to you just like we would
exactly.
do. Yeah, that's not Circus. That's Resorts World. They got to do better than that. That's a
Yeah.
shame.
And then the last point is, it kind of ties in. You were talking about all these conventions drumming up business. This is more on the sports side of things. I think they really oversold this whole Formula One thing, because they were hoping it was going to drum in a lot of business, but now I think it's a bigger pain than anything. It's nobody wants to come during Formula One anymore because of all the traffic nightmares. Like the first year they had Formula One. Do you remember the story about everybody getting stuck in the Ellis Island for 2 hours because
Yes.
the race went right down Koval?
Right.
It's
And it's not popular with the locals. It only benefits a handful of the high-end casinos. And as we learned from the last one, too, the first one did generate a ton of gaming revenue. It dropped a bunch. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm going to say 15 to 20% from the first one. And
mm-hmm,
it was still up a little bit against 2 years before. I think after this year, we're going to see it. It's going to be level with before F1. And also,
mm-hmm,
it's hard to take into account how much other tourism was lost, not just that weekend, but with all the road construction in the year one, that lasted 6 to 9 months. And even in year two, they were out there starting around September, starting to
mm-hmm.
take care of the roads for this. And I think people who normally would come once a year in mid-October are going to stop doing that because you can't go to the Bellagio fountain because they put all the grandstands on top of it. And
Yeah.
so some of the types of things, the photo opportunities, the free attractions, you can't get to because the strip is a disaster. And
Yeah,
if you
and
want
I
to go
mean,
from one
it
place to
was. I
another,
remember hearing this thing the first year. I don't know if it happened again the second year, but it was like Formula One, like anything, any property that had windows facing the strip, they were like making them pay to have the rights for the people inside their restaurants or whatever be able to watch. And if the companies didn't pay them, they blacked out all their windows.
So if I remember correctly, the after a big pushback, they walked a lot of that back. But
Mm-hmm.
also they put up things on the pedestrian bridges to where you can't see as you're walking by. And they
Yep.
do, if you aren't a part of it, they do not care about the obstruction. I kind of compare it to how what Fremont Street Experience did to Plaza and said, "Oh, you're not a part of FSE, so we're going to put the zip line platform right in front of you so you can't see it." So
Mm-hmm.
they don't work with you if you're not a part of the game. And
Yeah.
these little restaurants can't afford to be part of the game. There are a lot of
Exactly.
restaurants in the shopping centers around there and on second floors of the casinos that are tenants. And they're not just part of the Caesars doesn't operate all the like the Miracle Mile Mall and stuff shops or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Those are all individually owned restaurants in there, and they can't be a part. They can't pay all that money to be a part of that. Not like
Yeah.
MGM can afford.
Not a
Right. And
chance.
so, yeah, that so one day I'm going to run the data, especially after I get 3 years, maybe I will, just to see how much October and December have been affected by this, because the teardown takes a month or two, maybe even, in the even working up to it before, or after we've done most of the road work takes a couple of months. So here's 3 or 4 months of the year where the strip is torn up or has a lot of obstacles, including
Mm-hmm.
not being able to see the Bellagio fountain from the strip, the shows, and I think that that hurts too. And as we're seeing now, those people are not coming at other times because really, if you're used to coming here in October or November, why would you come in July and August? It's
Oh
just
God.
because your reason, part of the reason you're coming then is because the weather's great, especially if you're from a cold weather part of the country. You come in October and it's still 75 degrees outside. That's wonderful.
We it's funny, we've got the same issue down here because I'm in South Florida and we've got the Formula One down here at the Dolphin Stadium too, which is kind of the same thing. But it's interesting because I'd say the Seminole Hard Rock is probably, I don't know, 15 miles away from the stadium where they have the actual Formula One track. But they built the track through all the parking lots of the football stadium. So now there's no parking there. So they have everybody park at the casino and then they bust them all down. So even though I'm not near the casino, anytime we're going, or I'm not near the Formula One, I'm still dealing with the traffic anytime I go to film for our YouTube channel because there's just lines of tour buses down the big thoroughfare that the casino's on.
Well, at least they're just using a parking lot too. So when they're building the race course, they're not interfering with daily life. You hear
Mm-hmm.
they're really interfering with daily life.
Well, I know that I don't remember if they finally did it, but I know that they were trying to have the track go through neighborhoods down there,
Yeah.
and it is a they're much it's a low end community down there, and those people were very upset that they were going to have their daily lives, same thing for months at a time. And there was no way that they would be able to afford the Formula One tickets with how much they cost. So, and I remember in Vegas they did that. They told all the locals, "Oh, you can get all your free. We'll give you free tickets for the locals." And I think it was for like the practice day or something.
Right. Yeah,
They
all
never
the
told them ahead of time that.
and I think last year you're right. All the deals in the first year, I believe, were exactly the practice runs. And
Mm-hmm.
last year, I think that they started getting a little desperate. The attendance was way down last year, and so they gave locals some better deals. They're trying to smooth things over with us. And there are some locals who get excited about it. It's not 100% against, but it
Mm-hmm.
probably is 2 or 3 to 1 against. And some people don't care if they live. I live in Summerlin out by Rampart Casino. And if you live out here and you have a professional job out here, you never have to worry about the strip. You work in an office in Summerlin, you never deal with that. It doesn't matter to you at all. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of indifference too. But the people who deal with the strip, um, have a different way of looking at that. Where somebody who is a school teacher out here who never goes to the strip doesn't matter to them at all.
Yep. All right, so that does it, John. That was 10 reasons or 10 ways Vegas can be more fun for everybody to go out there. Now, again, if you're not familiar with John, he is the owner of VegasAdvantage.com. And for people that aren't familiar with your site, can you give us a little bit more information about it?
Okay, so Christina's my wife. We own VegasAdvantage.com, as you said, and we cover Las Vegas table game minimums, rules, video poker, electronic table games. We also have sections for poker rooms and other amenities like that from the gambling side. And we visit two sections of casinos every month. So we cover one part of the strip every month, and then we either cover downtown or a big part of the locals market. And we have all the minimum bets, whether blackjack pays 3-2 or 6-5, and that goes for electronic games and for live table games. Craps odds, whether the field pays double or triple, whether baccarat's no commission or commission. Double zero roulette, whether old pie gal game or whether it's face up. And so we have a newsletter that we sell for $5, and you can get all this type of information for that. And we also make videos too under Vegas Advantage. So we cover a lot of gambling material, not just Las Vegas. We do tutorials also, teach people how to play new video poker games or how to play different types of table games or give strategy advice.
Super cool. All right, John. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
All right, Matt, thank you for having me. This was great as always.
Yes, always a pleasure.